Hi, Emily. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Toni?
I'm doing good. We just got off that live, which was so great. I'm so happy we got to talk about it. You were talking about some really awesome things, so I'm excited now that you get to share it with the podcast fam.
Thank
Shared
you.
it with the Instagram fam. Now time for podcasting.
Yes, podcast fam.
Yes. So please introduce yourself and just say who you are and a little bit about what you do.
Great. So I am Emily Grant, and I am a personal growth coach and a professional dancer. I run two businesses, and I'm committed to helping people live their best life.
Yeah. And so me and Emily have connected, a few years ago. When I was in nightlife, like not in nightlife, I was not a dancer in nightlife. I just went out a lot. And I met some people, and then I ended up taking one of your dance classes.
Yeah, so I taught bar classes.
Yeah.
You came to my bar classes. I loved having you in there.
Yeah, that was the best. It was so much fun. And then, and so anyways, we stay connected through social, and I've seen your personal journey just grow. I've seen you go from having your one business, which I already looked up to you for just being a business owner, under the age of 30. And I aspire to do that. And so you're like a big part of like why I was like, I need to have my own business before I'm 30. Like if she could do it, I could do it. Although there are different fields, like I was like, no, like I don't have to be a certain age to have my own business. Like, so it was like, I just appreciate seeing other people in that space. And so thank you for that. And then now you have your other business,
Yeah.
which is called Timeless Moves, right?
Correct. Yep. So the first one is Karma and Soul Entertainment. That's my full service entertainment company where I staff professional dancers, specialty acts for nightlife events, corporate events, and Timeless Moves is my new baby with my partner, Jessica Viola. And we provide motivational dance workouts in corporate environments. And we integrate leadership development, a lot of cognitive exercises into our workouts.
That sounds so fun and definitely something that the corporate world needs.
Yes, definitely.
They're like high stress.
That's why
They're probably not moving enough, they're probably sitting a lot at their desk, right?
Yeah, our goal is to get everyone up and moving throughout the day to help increase the productivity, alleviate the stress that they feel from just being stationary for so long.
Wow. So what made you go that route? What made you choose to do that?
So my passions are helping people, studying behavioral patterns, thought patterns, and really helping people understand themselves and raise their own self-awareness. And then dance is my second passion. So it was time for me to combine my two passions, which I was always wondering how I was going to combine the dance with my passion for helping people. And by integrating those two passions together, it fueled me to start this second business, Timeless Moves, because it allows me to go into these corporate environments, help people develop confidence, leadership, connection, team building, workout, dancing, and really get them to feel better ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so great. And so you have a little bit of a story though. Like it seems like everything's going well for you, everything's really good, but it wasn't always like that for you. So if you don't mind, can you just share a little bit more about your journey and kind of the struggles that you went through and how it led you to where you are today?
Absolutely. And, all the struggles that I endured and the obstacles, all of that, I've been able to turn all that pain into my opportunities for growth, which is the place that I'm at now. So it's really crucial in understanding how I got to this place today. So when I was young, I was born with a submucous cleft palate. My speech was unintelligible. I went to intense speech therapy after multiple corrective surgeries to repair my speech. It was tough because people never understood me growing up. It wasn't until middle school that I had my first surgery. And when you're in middle school, 11, I wasn't, it was 8th grade. It was actually like I was 13. So imagine not being understood for 13 years of your life, it's tough. People constantly saying, what are you saying? What are you saying? But dance was always an outlet. At a very young age, I enrolled in dance classes. I was 3 and I would mimic my teacher's movement, and dance was an outlet. It was my passion. even though I really couldn't understand what they were saying. I knew I could copy the steps. So that was a big hurdle and obstacle in between the surgeries, the speech therapy. You know, I was teased. I was teased. People would often ask me, like, what are you saying? Why do you talk like that? You know, I definitely had people like, I remember like mimicking how I spoke, but I always recognized that it was something that was out of my control, right? Like, I was
Mhm.
born with this. There's nothing I can do at this point in time to change it. All I can do is get the surgeries and see what happens. And I never allowed it to stop me from speaking. I actually, on my report cards, teachers were like, she talks too much. My mom was so happy because I couldn't talk for so many years. When I didn't say like my first word, I was 3 and I still couldn't speak because I was also deaf. So
Oh
anyway,
my gosh.
yeah, I couldn't hear. I had to get multiple corrective surgeries on my hearing too. So yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I was 9, my father took his life. So aside from dealing with all the speech impediments and everything, I was also watching my father suffer from severe depression, bipolar, and then he took his life when I was 9. And then, you know, I went back to school fairly quickly, but it was tough because I never knew at that time, being that age, how that loss was going to affect my future relationships and how it was going to manifest later in life. And, you know, when
Mhm.
you lose someone when you're young, whether you're in therapy or talking to people, it's great because, you know, you get to be present and really let out the emotion and cry it out. However, it still gets embedded within you. You know,
Mhm.
that's what I like to talk and focus on with other people as well. Like, you know, you may face a loss and grieve and think that you're fully healed, but it comes back later a lot, you know.
Totally.
Um,
Especially at 9 years old, like how much of that can you truly understand and process?
totally. And I knew it wasn't you know, I was repeatedly told it's not your fault, like, you know, all this stuff. But no matter how many times you hear that, or even if you say it to yourself, you know, believing something and understanding it is different than just hearing it and saying it. And it goes for
Yeah.
affirmations too, right?
Yeah.
Say I'm beautiful 100 times, but unless you actually believe that you're beautiful, and so it's the same thing. People could say, oh,
Mhm.
it's not your fault that your dad left, but if I'm not really understanding and believing it, and then I grew
Mhm.
carrying that belief, which I did for a long time, like it was my fault,
Yeah.
that played out later, you know? So I worked through that over the years, and it was working through it kind of came at the same time as a lot of toxic relationships. Like, I entered physically, emotionally, like abusive relationships, and not all of them, but and then when I had good relationships, I didn't know how to navigate those waters. So through those experience of the toxic relationships and working in nightlife, which posed its whole, you know, nightlife posed its own issues
Yeah.
for me. But it was through those experiences that I actually also got to wake up and work through that loss,
Mhm.
you know, of my father. But it was a bumpy ride from 20 to 30. It was very bumpy. Like I said, I was in the toxic relationships and also just with the entertainment company working in nightlife. You know, it's very easy to get wrapped up with people who maybe their mission doesn't align with yours, but you don't even know it at the time. Because I always knew my mission was to help people. I always knew that, you know, I wanted people to be happy and live their best life, but yet I wasn't doing that for myself, you know?
Right.
And so I was with, you know, even though that was my mission, I knew that I wanted to do that. I wasn't acting in the ways or surrounding myself around the people that were doing that, you know? So
Mhm. Mhm.
and when 3 years ago, I was a big turning point for me because I woke up in a hospital in a coma. Well, I eventually woke up, but I was in the hospital in a coma because the night before I had overworked myself and I was out and I accepted what I thought was an energy drink from someone, and it was a date rape drug. In between the high levels of alcohol, my BAC was like just super high. In between that and the date rape drug that I had took, it put me in multiple seizures. And when I woke up, I didn't know where I was. Luckily, I had been with people that night who, you know, cared for me and they rushed me to the hospital. But I was near death and I wasn't waking up in the hospital. And when I did eventually wake up, it was like a miracle.
Mm.
It was at that time where I knew that I had to shift. I had been overworking myself in nightlife. I remember that weekend I had worked 6 gigs, like back to back to back. So I was on no sleep. I wasn't properly nourished. I like didn't eat enough. And it wasn't because I didn't want to eat. It's just that I was so busy and focused on getting from this job to this job. And I was managing too. So I had costuming and I'm managing all the talent. And, my expectations are very high for myself, and I knew I wanted to execute all these events professionally, which I did, but look where that got me, right? At what price? So when I woke up, not knowing where I was, it was in that moment that I was like, okay, it's time to make some changes. I wasn't very happy in my relationship at that time, and he wasn't abusive or toxic or anything like that, but I just knew that like it wasn't fulfilling me. Mutually, we finally split, and it was not too long after that experience. And, I felt so free after that, right? Because I was holding on to something that wasn't right for me. So that experience that I had, although it was traumatizing, it allowed me to really recognize that it was time to transform, let go of things that weren't serving me anymore. And it's really difficult to do that. And, it took that experience for me on my journey to really serve my evolution to get to the next chapter and the next phase of my life.
Wow. I mean, so like I heard this story before, but I still can cry. Like I'm not. It's just so like, I just feel like, that saying, God only gives you what you can handle. And like, you've just been through so much crap, but you really are so strong.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. It's just, you said something that really, everyone always says like, Emily, you're so strong. You're so strong. And like, yes, I'm strong having gone through that and endured it. But people often then associate that like, okay, well, she was weak when she was in it. And that's something that I like just want to get out there. Like people often assume that like when you're going through these struggles or these obstacles and you're having these breakdowns, crying or like waking up in the hospital, like I wasn't weak then. And not that you're saying that, but like in general, like I want people to understand I was just as strong then as I am now, right? It's just that I didn't have the tools then or the support or know how to reach out for it.
Totally.
And now I do, right? So it's like, thank you for like the compliment, but I just really want everyone to know who's watching this, like whatever obstacle or hardship or struggle you're going through, even if you feel weak and you're crying, like you're still strong, even if you feel weak, right? It's just like, that's the state of being. Be strong. Even when you're crying, that in those tears, there's so much strength.
Right. 100%.
But yeah.
Wow. No. Like, thank you for that. And I think that's so true. It's like, also too, it's just part of the journey. Like if you're struggling that much, it's not over yet. Like this is just like, it's just unraveling itself. And I love that. Like one of the things that you said is that at some point you realize, okay, like, this is not who I'm supposed to be. This is me right now, but this is not who I'm supposed to be. And then you took the steps to kind of get away. So let's get more kind of tactical, like what specific steps you kind of mentioned, like you started saying no to things, like you ended a relationship that didn't serve you. Like that's really hard to do. I think we get comfortable, and especially because this relationship, it sounds like wasn't toxic. So it wasn't, so it's like, what am I ending it for? Like, right?
It comes down to like, okay, well, what's your definition of toxic? Right?
Yeah.
How it wasn't toxic relative to any of my other relationships. And no, it wasn't toxic in the sense that I felt that I was being emotionally or physically abused, but that's still not justification to stay in a relationship just because you're not being emotionally or physically abused.
Right. Like we have to raise our standards. And I'm just going to be I'm going to let personal stuff in because whatever at this point.
Share.
Free range. But I've like dated the absolute worst of the worst and have been in really terrible relationships and have tolerated like low here. And when I started getting myself out of that, I go to therapy, and my therapist I would like get all excited about like this new guy that I'd be dating and like see how great he is. And she's like, okay, we have to take a step back because like the fact that he picked you up with his car and you didn't have to meet him there is not something like, Oh my God, like, doesn't make him great. That should be your general standard. Like, there's no, like, why is that above your expectation?
No, I mean, it's so funny that you're saying this, because at one point I was dating this guy, another guy who wasn't really like that toxic. It was just like for fun. But like, I remember he like paid for my ice cream. This is after I got out of like the most damaging, narcissistic, sociopathic, I got out of a relationship with someone who had that. And he paid for my ice cream, and I was like, and I'm like, he paid for my ice cream? Like, what? Like, okay. Like, Emily, my worth was like zero.
Yeah, we just jinxed each other. I just said zero at the same time.
I know. Yeah, no, it takes time though to really raise those standards and recognize your worth and develop the confidence within yourself to know what it is that you deserve. And that's another part of it, and like what I'm committed to helping people with is develop that confidence, that self-awareness, and their self-worth to know what they deserve.
How does someone even start with that? Like, what do you even do?
It's a process and it's a journey, and I'm all about affirmations. I put affirmations everywhere, but believing these affirmations is a whole nother part of the process. And what I think is so important is like saying that you're beautiful in the mirror 100 times, or saying that you're strong 100 times. If you're not actually practicing and being the person that you say that you want to be, it's very difficult to achieve the results that you want out of life, right? So journaling is a huge, huge, huge tool that people can use to really help to understand themselves and where they're at. And it sounds, everyone says, oh, get a journal, write your thoughts down, but I underestimated the power of that for a long time. And it was in my journaling that I was actually able to see my progress too. And like, because I look back at my journals now, and I wasn't consistent at all, and now I'm working on being more consistent. I'm still not perfect, right? But like I look back at what I wrote in like 2013, and I'm like, holy shit, like I predicted where I'm at now back then. And you can actually track your progress, and it feels good to know like, hey, I was here and now I'm here, right? So when you journal, it really gives you a great baseline to know like, hey, like this is where I started, this was here, and now look where I've grown to, right? So journaling helps give you clarity. It helps you to understand where it is that you want to go. It's all part of the healing process, and developing that confidence and the affirmations, like I said, is key. But being that and practicing the affirmation is the more challenging part, right?
Right.
I can say I'm strong 100 times, really, but if I don't believe that I'm strong, that affirmation means nothing.
So what would someone do to act strong? Like if they're trying to be strong, or like, I guess it's similar to like if you're in a relationship that's serving you to end it. Like, I don't know, like how.
So the beingness and being in the state of strength and power and courageousness really comes from unraveling your trauma and your past, right? Like you have to go backwards in order to move forward.
Yeah.
And a lot of what the transformation work that I do consists of. And I've been working on this for my entire life, which is why, the healing process for me has taken so long. And, you go back and you unravel and see where it started, right? Like what led to that confidence drop, and then of course you may have started with low confidence. Then when you entered these toxic relationships, or you entered all these different situations that really didn't serve you, that just like exacerbated the fact that you don't have low confidence or low worth, right? Like, so it's just like triggers, right? So you start already with this, and then you enter all these toxic relationships, and then your self-worth just like diminishes even more. So it's really important to look back at where it started and then undo all of the pain and the suffering. That is huge. People always say like, don't look back. Like this is something that I'm so passionate about speaking out about, because don't look back. No, it's so important to look back. You just don't attach to looking back.
Right.
So you dissecting your past, looking back, talking about it, sharing about it. There's such a stigma that people like about talking about your past and your struggles and your obstacles, that you're going to be weak. No, all of that stuff, if you're sharing in the best ways, are going to help you. It's very therapeutic and cathartic. And journaling about it. Once you do that and you really get to work through all of that past stuff, then you can start to work from the present and develop the confidence to move forward in your life and to grow and to transform, to become the best version of yourself and the version that you want to be.
Yeah. So basically, face your fears, face whatever's going on, stop trying to run from it.
That's it.
Pay attention to it.
Face it. And when you say like face it, and when I tell people to face it, it's not just like, okay, like for me, for example, my father died, he took his life. That sucks, right? Like it's so much deeper than that. Well, how did that affect me? What did that make me feel about myself, right? And in therapy, I was in therapy, you know, I was able to learn like, okay, I felt responsible for that death for a long time. Like it was my fault. I was unlovable, right? So that core belief of being unlovable, that became my story. But it was on a subconscious level. I didn't think I was unlovable. If you had asked me like, Emily, do you love yourself? I'd be like, hell yeah. Look at me in this awesome costume right now. For the camera, right? But like that's not real love for yourself, number one. It goes a lot deeper than that. And two, I got to work through that limiting belief of being unlovable over the course of time, but it takes practice, right? So to come to the place where I'm at now, where knowing what I deserve, which is a lot more than ice cream being paid for me, it's time. And you know, people want to rush the process, and I think my growth would have been a lot quicker. Like I don't have regrets, and I'm so grateful for all the experience I had, but had I had the support, right? Because I felt very alone. And you know, someone said to me, well, that was just your perception. No, like, okay, fine, yes, that was my perception, but I was alone, right? I didn't know how to reach for support. I didn't have very close relationships with my like family. Like I mean, I love them, a lot of them, but like on that intimate level.
Yeah, it wasn't enough. I can relate a lot because it sounds, and I think that's why certain coaches go into coaching. Like we have our personal experience. Like anybody who's listened, they know like I went through a lot of stuff. I come from a loving family, but I still didn't feel like there was room for me to share. Right. So that's, I had to deal with a lot of that stuff on my own. So like I've gotten help from teachers. I've gotten help from coaches. I had reached out to guidance counselors. Like I got some help, but it wasn't enough from what I needed. And I think that's the same thing for you. It's like you probably had great friends you could talk to along the way. Like you've had experiences where it helped a little bit, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't to the level that which you needed, which explains why you have created this new business and this coaching like model that you do, where you're working with people one-on-one so intensely because you realize that if they have this, they can save themselves so much time and frustration. And they can grow faster.
Exactly. And, you know, and it's not about pushing them to grow faster than they're ready for, but it will happen naturally if they're someone who understands them. And that's what it came down to, right? Like the people were there. I had friends, but their level of, they can only understand from the capacity that they have, right? And not everyone has the capacity to understand on the levels that you want them to understand.
Totally. Now, one thing you mentioned in the live, I thought was really cool. If you could share it here, and I could be saying it wrong, but like the be, do, get, or something. Explain that, like what people, the concept people think they're supposed to work, and how they actually are supposed to work.
Totally. And I learned about that in my own transformation workshops. And now I integrate it into all the coaching that I offer. So it's really important to ask yourself, what do I get to be in order to then take committed action in doing what I need to do to get what I want to have, right? Like that's the ideal way, right? Because a lot of people get stuck on the doing this, right? Like I'm going to hustle, like let's just say, perfect example, they want like a lot of money, right? I'm going to hustle, grind, kill myself, which I was there, in order to get this big amount of money. But they forgot about the beingness and being in the state of mind that they really needed to be in order to do everything. And if they work in this way, it's not going to be effective for them. They're going to struggle getting what they want to have. And then when they have it, it's going to be really difficult to appreciate it. And another way of looking at it would be like, okay, well, right now I don't have a lot of money. What do I need? What type of person do I need to be? And then what kind of action do I get to take in that state of being to then get that money? So like I can be open to all the opportunities that come my way. I can be powerful, I can be strong, I can be courageous, and be appreciative and be grateful for what I do currently have in this moment. Gratitude is huge, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then from that place, that foundation, take committed action. It's not that you could just be there like law of attraction. Now I'm going to get everything I want because I'm being awesome, you know? But you still get to take committed action, but you take it from that place.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the place of just taking the committed action with no strong foundation and no roots to hold everything together.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you get to your goals and you get where you want to be, and it's going to be that much sweeter, and the gratitude and the appreciation is going to be there for it. And that's something I practice daily. There are days where I wake up and I'm like, I'm not being the person that I know that I want to be right now. So like, what's the point of all this committed action that I'm taking right now if I'm not being present and I'm not being what I need to be in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that even when I was struggling through the obstacles, and this is what I also coach, you know, I was still grateful. I was still grateful to be alive and be grateful to breathe. And don't get me wrong, that's not to be confused with not having moments where I wanted to die, because I had those moments. But there was still this sense of I was destined for something greater. I knew that, you know, like I'm sleeping in my car right now, but it's not going to stay this way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, and that's really important too, to know that when you are stuck, it's not going to stay that way. And then when you can look at, if you have a journal, you look back and you say, oh, you know what, I was stuck back in whatever on this day here, but then I wasn't stuck here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you can always make those comparisons and really see the growth
Totally.
on paper.
Yeah, I think the big word that comes to mind is hope.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have to have hope. You have to believe. Hope and belief, I would say. Those are like the two big things. It's like that, you know, it is going to get better. And if you do take action, but like, I guess the right way to say it is purposeful action, not just taking action just to take action, but purposeful action, knowing that this is going to serve a purpose for you. Maybe not right now, but you won't get the results right now, but in the future, you're doing it for something bigger.
Exactly. Like, yeah, you look at what it is that you want out of life, right? It's like, whether it's finding your passion, finding your purpose, discovering all of that. And then it's like, okay, I know that that's my goal. What do I get to be? And then and get to do what I need to do in order to reach that goal. And it is
Mm-hmm.
a journey and it is a process. And you may hit like a lot of rock bottoms along the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know that, hey, let me hold on to this hope and then ride back up the wave, you know, ride back up. I may drop back down, but I know that I'm going to get back up. And a lot of people who take their life, face depression, anxiety, I've been there, so I get it, you know. You lose that, you feel hopeless. You're in desperation mode. You lose the hope that it's going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Having the support, reaching out, you know, being around people even who understand you. Maybe they're not a coach, maybe it's just a friend who just gets you to the, you know, like no other. Having that is so important, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that you're not alone, because I felt alone for many, many years, you know. But then I was fortunate enough to reach out and for support, and you know, and when I say fortunate enough, I really mean I was fortunate enough to come to a place where I recognized and became self-aware that that's what I needed.
Right. Right.
Fortunate for that.
Yeah. So what was one of your, like, what was one of the first things that you did when you realized that, you mentioned like earlier, like there were, you went to like workshops and read personal development books. Do you have any specifics that of like maybe books or workshops that someone could attend or listen to?
Yeah, absolutely. So Gabrielle Bernstein was a huge inspiration for me. I mean, she still is. I went before she got to where she is now. I was in a workshop with her. This is actually in 2013. A friend had recommended me to her, and there was only like maybe 50 of us in a room with her. So it was very intimate. Now, oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
It was really intimate and it was amazing. And like, it was a 4-week workshop in Manhattan. And I also had read her books, and her insight just helped me so much. A lot of self-development work, like podcasts, and then Eckhart Tolle, his books. And another thing though, you know, that I realized, and this was as of lately, it's like you can read all these books, but again, the practice implementation of it,
Yeah.
a daily practice into your routine is a whole nother story. And it helps
Mm-hmm.
to like read the books again, journal about the books, or maybe what helped me actually, and this will help other people, is that, like when I would read something, then I would say, okay, like how did that translate into my life?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How can I take that principle and then work it into my daily practice?
Right. Right.
So Eckhart Tolle is a wonderful author, and yeah, he's amazing. I love him.
Yeah. I just can't listen to him on audio.
Yeah, it makes me fall asleep. Actually.
Yeah, just read it. Don't. I love audiobooks, but with him, oh my god.
His voice actually puts me to sleep.
Oh my god, my godfather loves him, so whenever I visit him in Florida, he'll like re-listen to that audio over and over again. I love my godfather. I look up to him so much. He's such a wise man. But I just like, and he knows I'm very like self-aware and I love personal development, and so like he thinks it's like I'm loving it, and I'm just like, oh, I call him Nuno's godfather in Greek. I'm like, no. Like, I get it. I understand the lesson. Can we not listen to him? I'll read his book later.
Everything in moderation, right? Too much of anything can drive you nuts.
Oh my god, no. But seriously though, his message is great.
Yeah.
I would say Eric Tolle. Eric, I can never say his name.
Yeah, Eckhart Tolle,
I would say he's more like advanced in the sense of like, I would start with probably like Gabrielle Bernstein and
for sure.
Work your way up to something like that, because the concepts are a little bit, I feel like you need a mental foundation and self-awareness foundation before you could even, because for me even, I felt like it was challenging me in ways to think of things and that I don't know if I was quite ready for. And I think that's important too. I don't think we're always ready for certain messages. So you might have picked up a book last year and it wasn't hitting you, but maybe you didn't need it then. Maybe try that book again this year. Gabrielle Bernstein, I listened to her, 2 of her books, I think. What is the one?
So wait, she has a podcast, actually. Well, it's like
that
I listened to also. Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up here because I actually just recommended this to a friend.
What was the name of her book though?
Oh my god, I read it like in 2000.
Yeah, I read it. Maybe I read it almost a year and probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Oh my god, I can't think of the name of it.
But that's so cool that you got to learn from her before she blew up. That's like so cool. Because to be honest, the lessons are the same. Like these people with like thousands of followers that are credible, like it's the same story they've been saying for years. They just now have a bigger following, so it's harder to like get to learn it from them
in an intimate way.
Yeah.
She offers like coaching and stuff too now online, which she didn't back then. But here it is though. But this is what I was talking about. So like on the podcast, wait, I don't know if people can see this. All right. Well, on the podcast, she has a welcome to guided meditations, feelings meditation, forgiving meditation, creative abundance lecture. I love that. I recommend that to people. It's only like 4 little episodes, but they're great.
Awesome.
Yeah, and meditation is also another tool that I recommend to people.
Yeah. I am a huge advocate for meditation as well. I usually tell people to do like Headspace. What app do you like tell people to do an app? I do follow on YouTube. Like, what do you usually tell people?
Yeah, I usually go on YouTube. So I don't have a specific like playlist that I created, although that's something that I want to do. I go on YouTube and then I find one that resonates with me, and I usually will search like keywords that I feel that I need at that time. So for example, like if I am looking to meditate on getting clarity, I'll type in like getting clarity meditation.
Gotcha.
I'm looking for like manifestation, I'll type in like manifestation.
Yeah. That makes sense. I should do that more because when I do it, I just do either like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It's like whatever I got time for, and then it pops up.
And I definitely am guilty of this, like not meditating enough. Meditation is best when it's a daily practice. So it's like every morning, every night, one or the other, or both, and creating the time for that is so important. Totally. I am committed to finding the title of, the universe has your back.
The universe has your back. Yes, that's the book. It's good.
Yes. And she has another book out too, May Cause Miracles.
Oh, I don't know that one. I'm going to add it to my list because I'm almost done with my one audiobook.
Yes. And then there's Judgment Detox as well.
Ooh, Judgment Detox. That sounds good.
Yes. Pretty sure that was the name of her.
I'm definitely putting those on my audio list.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Emily, so you do coaching one-on-one, right?
Yes.
Like with people. So is there I would love, I think it's helpful for people to hear like specifically from like another client that you have, maybe not obviously with not giving out their names,
Yeah.
but like, is there a certain client that comes to mind to you that like where he or she was when you first started working together, a little bit about their story and their journey, and then where they are today and like how coaching has helped them? I would
Yeah,
love to hear more about that.
absolutely. So there's one girl that I work with, and she was in a very miserable, toxic relationship. Um, and again, I don't label the relationships for people, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
will tell them what it sounds like to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a therapist, I'm not diagnosing, but however, I can express my opinion of what it sounds like, right? My
Mm-hmm.
experience of it. Um, and I know that it was toxic from what she expressed to me.
Mm-hmm.
So by raising her levels of confidence and increasing her own self-awareness into what was making her stay into the relationship, she was slowly able to ease out of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
happened overnight, and I'm not going to push for anyone, process to happen overnight. And that's an issue that I have with a lot of coaches, where they like just sell you this false belief and idea that like, okay, end your relationship in 2 weeks, in 14 days, end this and do this and do this. And then it's like, okay, that's not how life works. That's not realistic.
No. Yeah.
So I worked through that relationship with her, and she's no longer in the relationship. She left, and I'm so proud of her for leaving,
Mm-hmm.
and that was through really us working together to develop her self confidence and for her
Mm-hmm.
to raise her worth. And also understand like the hardships and the traumas that she went through that perhaps led her to enter into a relationship in the first place. And
Absolutely.
that goes back to like undoing that past stuff, right? And like
Yeah.
so now she's no longer in that relationship. She's not seeing anybody else, but she feels free.
Mm-hmm.
She feels so grateful to be out of it, right? Like, and that's not always the case. I've spoken with people who like initially they go back to that relationship, and then it's like a cycle. That happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
With her, from my understanding, she has not gone back. So,
Mm-hmm.
and
That's
so
good.
free, and we're just still working on like now what does she get to be and
Mm-hmm.
what does she have to do in order to attract now the relationships that she does deserve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, because definitely one thing I've learned, like through my personal experience, I can really only speak to that, but is like we choose relationships out of something that feels comfortable in the sense that it feels relatable because of maybe the way that we grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, but that doesn't make it like that it's comfortable, that it's good for us. It just means that like, if you're used to being like, I know for me, because my sister struggled growing up, I was always the caretaker. And so I always felt like it was my responsibility to make the person in the relationship feel good, but they didn't have, I never got that back for my sister my whole life. So like the expectation for them to take care of me was not even
Exactly.
on in it, right? And so until I brought my awareness and realized like, oh, okay, that's why I'm so attracted to this man, because he's so needy. He needs me.
Exactly.
He needs me, but like I don't need him, but he needs me, and that goes to playing to like how I led my like live most of my life, and that's why it feels comfortable, and that's why I don't want to leave. But is this really what I need? No. Like,
It's like that is the same exact thing. Like, yeah, for sure. Like, right. So I lost my father for a long time. I thought it was my job to fix everyone, right? Like,
mhm.
I held on to that belief, but it was on such a subconscious level,
Yeah,
right?
you didn't realize.
A lot of work to bring that to the surface, and like, so I was attracting a lot of men who needed help, like,
Mhm.
and I thought it was my job, like, I'm gonna save them, right? So in like one way, it's almost like me saving them is reflective of me saving my father. Well, like
Yeah,
that's not realistic, right?
exactly.
But I had to undo those faulty belief systems and
Mhm.
peel away all those layers. Really, life is just about peeling away the layers. And a lot of people, it's scary to transform that way and peel those layers, because those layers make us feel, like you said, comfortable and safe. But you
Mhm.
don't know what's on the other side, right? Like, it's like if you're standing behind this door and you confine yourself to this space behind this door and you never open and unlock that door, you don't know what's on the other side.
Mhm.
So it's scary to step onto the other side. And, you know, in transformation work also, we learn, like, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So,
Totally. Wow. This has been so helpful, so informative. I feel like you're just so wise, and I would just like love to be able to talk to you forever.
I could do all day about relationships.
I know. Well, anyways, unfortunately, we do not have all the time in the world. So just please let people know how they can find you and get in touch with you.
Yeah, so I'm working on my own personal website right now because I have so many businesses. It's like overwhelming. So the best way to contact me right now would be through Instagram or email.
Okay.
So my Instagram handle is Emily Grant Says. So my name, Emily Grant Says, because I say a lot. And I be a lot and I do a lot and help others do the same. And then my email, my personal Gmail would be the best way right now. It's just Emily Grant, my name, 8787 at gmail.com.
Perfect.
Yeah, until my website is finished.
Yeah. And eventually you're going to have a podcast.
Yes, so I'm going to be starting a podcast, yes, this summer. Yeah.
So excited.
And I can have you on my podcast.
Yay. I can.
Amazing nutrition tips, how to fuel their bodies so they don't end up like I used to be.
Totally. Yeah, no, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for that. Thank you so much. Is there any last minute things you want to say to anyone who's listening?
I just want everyone listening to know that they're not alone. Feeling alone, even when we're surrounded by hundreds of people, is common, you know, because you feel misunderstood, right? So they are not alone. And I want them to know that they can reach out for support. There are people there who understand them. It's just a matter of finding those people.
Totally. Yeah, thank you so much, Emily. I know that if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to you. I'll put your contact information in the show notes. Yeah, and if you guys have any follow-up questions, you guys can ask me or reach out to Emily, and we'll be happy to address them.
Yes, thank you, Toni.
You're welcome. Thank you.
See you soon.